Hey YouTube, Maestro here from Bendu Lightsaber Academy. Thank you so much to all of our supporters who've been with us the past year when the channel's been somewhat silent. After we finished producing the fundamental series of videos, the introduction to the first 6 forms and our philosophy behind them, some of the technical aspects that beginners need to know. We took some time off away from it, but now we're here and I'm proud to present our Knights series videos, of which there will be about 11, I believe, covering Makashi, and then we'll move on into Surisu, Ataru, Jujemso. Alright, so without further ado, let's get started. Alright, so Makashi. Makashi, the second form of lightsaber combat, focuses mainly on the aspects of dueling, specializing in blade-to-blade combat. It's a dueling-centric form, for those of you who don't know. In canon, it's the form of beings like Count Dooku, Saj Ventress, beings who knew they were going to be in a lot of lightsaber-to-lightsaber conflicts, so they studied up on that aspect of the weapon and how to use that. In real world, Makashi has most often been compared to real world weapons like the rapier, cut and thrust swords, the Bolognese school, different things like that. And in our system, we stay pretty much along those lines. But today what we're going to talk about is the actual meaning of Makashi and the heart of Makashi. Those of you familiar with the in-canon know that Makashi is also known as the contention form. If we break down the word, it's actually 2 words put together. Maka, meaning contention or struggle, this referring to the 3 struggles that one engages in a dueling situation, and we'll get into that in just a moment. And then Shi, which, just like Shi-Cho means the 3 cuts, Makashi is the 3 contentions or struggles inherent in any dueling situation. Alright? So the first of these struggles, the first of these contentions is known as anatomy. This is the first principle of any combat. In any system, in any real-world martial art as well, one has to know one's body. One has to be adept at utilizing it, at caring for it, at developing it to a higher level. Victory in the realm of anatomy, in the contention of anatomy, confers an advantage which allows you to be victorious in combat overall. We'll get more into the details on that later, but I want to go over the 3 contentions and then the 3 advantages that those contentions confer, which then lead to victory in lightsaber combat. So the first, as I said, is anatomy, and this refers to the limitations and the capabilities of the body. It's also known as the inner contention. So it's entirely subjective, taking place within yourself. Though individual fighters might be unique, the human body is, we share enough similarities that we can generalize. There's a lot of commonalities, so we can make sort of a standard in anatomy. All right, examples of facets of this principle are fitness, physiology, psychology is a very important one, kinesthetics, subjective positioning, or the kame, the stances that you take, that you adopt statically can give you advantage in the realm of anatomy, in the first contention, and the specifics of these we'll cover more in depth in future videos. The second contention is physics. Physics, the contention of physics, is also known as the outer contention. This refers to the literal physics that are guiding combat. So things like the generation of force, leverage, distance, tempo, objective positioning. Not how you're standing so much as, but how you are positioning yourself as opposed to the opponent. Movement, which is relative between the 2 opponents, and those sorts of things. So that is the second of the contentions, physics. The third contention, which guides all lightsaber combat, is the contention known as the subjective contention. It's the combination of the first and second contentions. It's called tactics. Tactics is referred to as the comprehensive contention because it refers to how, the manner in which, the first two contentions are brought to bear and leveraged against an opponent to attempt to gain an advantage. Examples of this can include considered positioning, which is the third type of positioning, appropriate versus inappropriate actions, deception, which is huge in Makashi, and the elemental families of tactics, which if you've seen our 9-man fundamentals video, you understand the 5 elemental families of tactics: earth, air, fire, water, light, and the void. But we'll get more into that in different videos. Okay, so the point of the 3 advantages, as I said before, of the 3 contentions, as I said before, is victory in any one of these confers an advantage. Possession of the advantages confers final victory. This is not a process that you have to attempt to implement. This is universal. It doesn't matter if you're boxing. It doesn't matter if you're doing jiu-jitsu or judo, MMA fighting, fencing, laser tag, paintball, real war. It's all the same. Any conflict or contention is guided by these 3 first principles, or the first 3 contentions. Victory in any of these 3 will confer an advantage. The person who wins or gains the advantage in these contentions will achieve victory. You can view any sort of fight, any sort of match, whether it's in lightsaber combat and on our channel or on other channels, whether it's, as I said before, MMA fights, anything like that. What you'll see is people having various advantages, and the one who has these advantages, or wins in these contentions and possesses the advantages, is always the guy with victory. That's just the way that the world works. All right, so let's talk about the advantages and what are they. Anatomy confers the advantage of reach. Reach not meaning that you can extend your arm out and touch the opponent, but reach refers to how you are able to apply power to an opponent. A good example of this would be when you are in a combat situation with another lightsaber wielder. One of you possibly might have a longer arm or be taller than the other, and they would, by virtue of that height, possibly gain the advantage of reach and be victorious in that area, in that contention. But that's not to say that's the only way to gain reach. Again, reach is larger than the literal translation of how far can I reach. It means more having the ability to exert pressure, power, or influence against your opponent. Okay? Ideally, you want to do that without them being able to also apply their power, their leverage, their reach against you. And that we'll get into that again later. Physics, or the second contention, will provide the advantage of leverage. And again, this refers to the actual dictionary definition of leverage, meaning that we have a lever, I can move things with it by virtue of the levering action, and I don't have to put as much power into it, and as much raw power to get the same results. I can be efficient about it, and efficiency is one of the hallmarks of Makashi. Physics confers the advantage of leverage, and the meaning of the term is, like I said, it's much deeper than its surface. Leverage is the victory of your reach, the successful application of your reach against that opponent. So in a way, it's controlling the opponents, being able to act on them. It's the actual acting on them. Anatomy, reach, being able to act on them. Physics and leverage is actually acting upon them. And the third contention, tactics, is all about how you go about doing it. And the advantage that it confers is one, called positioning. This positioning is referring to the manner or the way in which you utilize your reach and take advantage of your leverage. We're going to do a lot of this and you'll see a lot of this in 9-man, because 9-man is the study of this third contention. But getting back to Makashi, Makashi is the study of all three contentions and the advantages that they impart, to actually study the way that combat works, to study the way that these things happen. The interplay of these contentions and the application of the advantages is what Makashi is all about. Simply gaining them isn't enough. They have to be applied appropriately in an ever-changing, dynamic combat situation. And the measure of how well you do that will measure your success and your mastery of Makashi.